The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, you are encouraged to like and share them on Facebook because it's time for the African American Scene, presented each week at this time by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie and hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Wow, boy, if you saw that, that was some kind of pomp and circumstances with the delivery of the articles of impeachment to the Senate. I was old enough, I don't remember the pomp and circumstance for Clinton or Nixon in such a formal manner. I'm sure it probably happened, but maybe there just wasn't cameras there to cover it. But I thought that was the ceremony and the formality of the delivery of the articles and the presentation of the House managers, quite interesting. Well, let me say this. On January 15th, 1929, my hero was born, Dr. Martin Luther King. What an awesome man. Not a perfect man, but an awesome man in all that he stood for and all that he accomplished. A graduate of Morehouse College, he went on to attend Crozer Theological Seminary, and after being valedictorian at Crozer, he went on to receive his PhD at Boston University. The world is a little bit better place because we had Dr. Martin Luther King. I can still get goosebumps when I listen to some of his speeches. They still inspire me, sometimes bringing tears to my eyes with the power of his oratory skills. But be that it as it may, just let's all remember the person that he was. And I'm not sure that all of you will really be able to understand what an important time he came along. I remember it like it was yesterday because black people in the country were fed up. You had the rise of the Black Panthers, and you had the Stokely Carmichaels of the world, and people were just tired of the police brutality, 2020, and that still goes on. But that was part of what spurred his activism. And they were tired of not being able to sit at a restaurant with the dignity and respect, or to be able to go to a movie theater and sit with everybody else. And there was a general frustration. And we were on the crisis of some potentially very violent interactions, especially with the emergence of Malcolm X at the same time. But he came along and he gave us a prescription of peace and of getting people to buy into his nonviolent philosophy. And as a result, he was able to convince many of my white brothers and sisters to join him in his protests, which some of the other groups had been unsuccessful in gaining support from our white brothers and sisters. So at a time when there was a very, very explosive environment, now those of you who, black people were my age, you will remember it, there was just people were fed up. They were just had it. They just weren't going to continue to be pushed around and put down, just was not going to go on anymore, and they were ready to strike back. And here he comes, like God sent him in here. Okay, come in here and take control. And he did. And we all benefited from that. Let me share with you a story that I posted on Facebook. About a week ago, I think it was last Friday, I was in the sauna. There was about 4 of us in there. And if you know anything about the sauna, guys are sitting in the sauna sweating and talking. And this one guy in the sauna says, you know, when I was in jail, I got 3 meals, I had a roof over my head, I had health care. If anything was wrong with me, I could go see a doctor. And he said, the only thing missing was my freedom. That statement struck me like a lightning bolt. I was sitting there, sweat running every which way, and I just kept thinking about that, the statement that he made. And I thought to myself, something's wrong with that picture. He's in jail, and he said, and we had cable TV. You couldn't watch what you wanted all the time, but there was cable TV there. And I thought to myself, boy, there's something wrong. We got people working at Walmart, going to work every day, working as hard as they can for the amount of money that they can earn, having a difficult time getting housing if they have some, because we know people who are homeless who go to work every day. They pay taxes and they have no health care. And people are complaining about them. But guess what? The guy in jail who just made his statement, we pay for him too. So my question is, why would we be so reluctant to help the person that goes to work every day, that's having a difficult time surviving on the substandard wages, but we don't have a problem helping the guy that's in jail who gets 3 squares, roof over his head, and health care? I want you to just think about that for a second. Just like I did when I was sitting in that sauna, sweating and listening to the guys talk, I thought to myself, that's not right. There's something wrong with that. This guy is in jail for punishment, and in reality, other than the fact that he lost his freedom, he's better off than too many people that are on the outside working. If there's anybody out there that disagrees with me, please call up and put me in check. But that was the thought that went through my mind after he said that. That number is 340-1590. 340-1590. I guess I was just sitting there and I was just going, man, just think about that. He's in jail. He doesn't have to worry about being out in the rain or trying to find a place to live. He gets 3 square meals. And if there's something wrong, there's a doctor for him to go see. He's not paying any taxes, and we're paying for him. How about that? Is there something wrong with that picture? Am I just such a flaming left-wing liberal that I'm off base? And if you think I am, I want to hear from you. Just tell me where I'm off base at, because to me, when you analyze that situation, there's something wrong with that picture. A guy in jail who is able to have more life security than a person who's working every day? There just seems to be something wrong with that to me. I don't know. But in any event, uh, Cliff, we got to do something because there's something playing in my ears.
Oh, nobody can hear that. There's just Greg calling in on the
Okay.
Skype machine for the
Okay.
IRSC game we're going to be broadcasting.
Oh, all right. But I could hear it.
That's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you got a caller too.
Okay.
Simultaneously.
Brian on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. How's it going? Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Hey, it's been a while since I called in. Did you ever reconcile with your friend? I remember last year you talked about you and a close friend of yours had a disagreement and you pretty much lost your friendship. I was curious if you guys have reconciled.
He called last week, Brian. And
Okay, that's great.
yeah, he could called in to the show last week and reached out to me, and I haven't decided whether I want to go back through that exercise again or not, but I'm certainly thinking about it.
All right, well, hopefully you guys can become fully recognized and just agree to disagree, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I was calling is just listening to you, and I definitely agree with you on the fact that a prisoner having pretty much all his or her needs met, and the people on the outside, especially homeless or underprivileged or marginalized members of society, don't have it, quote unquote, as good as the person behind bars. Yes, said that they don't have their freedoms anymore, but you know what? Honestly, for a lot of these criminals, that's just fine with them. Specifically, murderers, you know, they will do their best to plead out of the death penalty, and they'll much rather have life behind bars. But like you said, and this is something that I've said in the past also, especially to my friends and coworkers, I'm like, this guy is sitting in jail for the next however many decades, getting free food, free health care, free education, and like you said, a roof over his head. He ain't got to worry about nothing else. He ain't got to make any decisions. All his decisions are made for him. And so I don't know how you feel about capital punishment, but that's definitely that I like to use. Arguing for capital punishment. Like, look, I don't want to pay for anybody that done killed off a whole bunch of school kids and this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So
no, I'm with you. Listen, I'm with you on that. But obviously, if he's sitting in the gym, in the sauna, he wasn't one of those guys. And the impression that I got from him in listening to him speak, he was talking about the guys that were on the outside struggling to try to put two nickels together to survive versus the guys that were in the jail and were surviving pretty comfortably. That's what struck me with made such an alarming feeling in me. I'm going, man, I know that is just something wrong with that, because I know when I was working with my friend, I can't think of her name, Roxy, she was telling me about a lady that was living in a tent and had 2 kids and was going to work every day at Walmart. And that lady just popped up into my head as he was talking, and I'm thinking to myself, this lady's struggling like heck, and this guy is like, hey, man, you know, I didn't have any freedom, but I have all of this.
Yeah, and again, for a lot of them, that's just fine. You know, again, you don't have to make any decisions. All you do is made for you. All you got to do is get up and do whatever it is you're told, and that's it.
Yep, that's right.
I've never been to prison or jail, but I mean, come on now, you don't have to necessarily go through that experience to know that Yes, it's prison, yes, it's jail. Of course, it's not a pleasant place to be. But then again, a lot of people make fun of them, and they put them in there. They're not here. So
I don't know how true this is, but I was once told by somebody that if a person has a severe health problem and they're on the outside and they can't seem to get any help, they will sometime commit a crime so that they have to go to jail so that they can get fixed whatever's broken. Now, I can't confirm that, but I was told that by somebody that that's the solution that people sometimes use to be able to try to remedy their health concerns. So, and here's my follow up to that. What the heck is wrong with us that somebody would have to go to jail to resolve a health concern because we are so selfish we would not be interested in trying to get people health insurance?
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and I'm a conservative, by the way, but we definitely see eye to eye on more a few topics. But I agree with you. That should not be something that somebody would have to do because, and I got to hurry and get off here, but we wouldn't want any of our children or family members having to feel like they have to take that route to become a freaking criminal, and that's just terrible. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go. But I appreciate you taking time out to talk to me, and
Okay.
maybe there's somewhere that we can bipartisan to take care of the people that need health care, and so they don't wind up having to go behind bars to get it. And I'm praying for you and your buddies' reconciliation. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Are you?
Well, I don't have a problem talking to conservative. I mean, you got to talk like that. I mean, we can have a reasonable conversation. He didn't try to feed me a bunch of garbage and BS. He came straight away, and I'm all right with that. And because I don't, contrary to what some people feel like Steve, I do not dislike conservatives. I dislike trying to feed me garbage that I know is garbage. That's the problem that you run into with me. So I shared that story with you because that story is kind of stuck with me, and I posted that on Facebook, and I got some people that responded to that post, and then I think other people were like kind of reluctant to respond to the post because it's pretty hard to defend that. And Brian added another issue that I had overlooked, saying that person in jail also gets an education. They can go to college while they're in jail. And we're paying for all of that. How about that? But when the person's on the outside and Elizabeth or Bernie or whoever say, we want kids to have college, you say, that's socialism. I don't want to pay for that. Surprise! You're already paying for it for the people that are incarcerated. And the people that you would be helping who are out here outside the jail system, they're also paying taxes. So they may not be paying as much into the tax system as you, but they're making a contribution. They're not freeloading on the system. So think about that, folks. When you are saying, I don't want to pay for this, I don't want to pay for that, I don't want this, I don't want that, just give that some thought. Give that some thought. I'm going to share with you a story. Last week I shared with you a story from Abigail Disney that came from the New Yorker, and that was a really powerful story. And if you weren't listening to me, Abigail Disney is now a member of the Patriotic Millionaires, which you hear me talk about all the time. And she talked about how the wake-up call that she got was when she was flying from California to New York, which is where her home is. And she was on her family 737 jet with a full staff. It suddenly struck her that somehow that didn't seem quite right. That there's a full staff of people in a 737, and most of us have flown on a 737, which is a commercial aircraft, but she was on the 737 that had a bed and a shower, all kind of the fancy stuff that you do to decorate it out. Well, this article is from Bill Gates. The reason why I share these things with you is because typically when you hear a request for higher taxes, you associate that with some kind of wacko left-wing liberal who's just trying to steal your money. And so whenever I can, I like to be able to show you there are people out here who are of good sound mind and body and who are wealthy, who feel very similar to the fact that there has to be a difference in the way rich people are paying taxes. And what Bill Gates says in this article, he started the last decade with more than $50 billion, and he pledged to donate a big chunk of his fortune to charity. By the end of it, he had given away billions of dollars to fight poverty and improve health care and education, and some of his education gifts have been just phenomenal. But his net worth also more than doubled during the same period of time as a result of the soaring stock market and favorable tax policies. So he gave away billions, and he more than doubled his income. So at the end of the decade, the world's most richest person said he wants his fellow billionaires, to pay much higher taxes. Again, I want you to get this. This isn't Rudy Howard saying it. This is Bill Gates saying it. U.S. lawmakers should close loopholes, raise the estate tax, and hike the capital gains tax so that it equals the rate on labor income. Gates wrote Monday in a year-end long blog. He also called for states and local governments to make their taxes fairer and reiterated his support for a state income tax in Washington, where he and his wife, Melinda, live. So he says, I've been disproportionately rewarded for the work I've done, while many others who work just as hard struggle to get by, he wrote. And that's why I'm for a tax system in which if you have more money, you pay higher percent of taxes. And I think the rich should pay more than they currently do. And that includes Melinda and me. It is alleged by Bloomberg, Bill Gates' net worth now is $113.7 billion. That's absolutely unbelievable. And he has Warren Buffett, and he asked some other billionaires to sign up to give away portions of their fortune. And as of May, he had 204 people from 23 different countries agreeing to participate. Gates has expressed reservations about the wealth tax proposed by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in his blog posts. He said he won't take a position on various proposals being debated during the campaign, but he believes we can make our system fairer without sacrificing the incentive to innovate. He wrote, Americans in the top 1% can afford to pay a lot more before they stop going to work or creating jobs. In the 1970s, when Paul Allen and I were starting Microsoft, marginal tax rates were almost twice the top rate today. It didn't hurt our incentive to build a great company. And here's the question that some of my conservatives call up and say to me all the time, and he addresses it right. He says, he doesn't just, some people ask Gates why he doesn't just pay extra taxes himself. But he says, that's not a scalable solution, he wrote. Additional voluntary giving will never raise enough money for everything the government needs to do. So he understands, and some of my listeners don't, that the government needs a certain level of funding in order to provide the services that they do to help make our lives safe and to keep our company in maintenance. And one of the things we have to invest in, and we've talked about it, and there's been some dialogue about it, is our roads and bridges. Our infrastructure is in a sad state. And we continue to give tax cuts to rich people while we ourselves are in a desperate situation regarding our own infrastructure for maintaining the viability of our country. So last week I told you about a book I was reading, and I was going to give you the name and I forgot, so I'm going to give it to you right now. It's called How to Read the Constitution and Why, with Kim Weil, professor of law. And this book is not written like a law book. She writes it in very simple language so you can understand how the Constitution is constructed. And she touches on some of the key issues in the Constitution that are especially germane to what's happening today. So if you saw the House articles being delivered to the Senate, what was your feeling about that? And unless you're dead and haven't cut the TV on, I'm sure you've seen by now the emails and the notes that Lev Parnas is going to be, that he has turned over to Congress about conversations he's had with Rudy Giuliani, and a letter from Rudy Giuliani which references directly the President of the United States. Now, according to what I saw last night, all of it has not been authenticated, but as a general rule, they don't give stuff like that out unless there has been a pretty substantial reason to believe it is accurate. And listen, I don't care how much you love Trump. He's got to be one of the dumbest people that I have ever encountered in my life. He does not know how to keep people on his side. When they approached him about, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, because Lev Parnas has pretty much said it. When they approached him about Lev Parnas, he said, I don't know who that is. I know nothing about him. And this is after Parnas had gotten arrested. So he ticked off Parnas. And Parnas was like, oh, you don't know who I am? Okay. Well, then I think I don't feel any compunction to try to protect you. I'm just going to tell people what I know. That's just, to me, dumb. Why would you do that? I would have played, he'd have been better off just playing mumbly peg and mumbling and saying nothing rather than saying, oh, I don't know him. Because that was a direct slap in the face to the man. So how you going? You can't. The man's not going to stay on your side after you struck him like that, and he continues to do that on a regular basis, and I really don't get that. And we got John on line 1. Yes, sir.
I can't believe you just that they don't let documents like this get out without somebody doing some investigation on it. When you saw that Pfizer report that they did all that crap on it and nobody ever investigated it. That is okay. That's out there. Second of all, what did I see? Being the independent voter that I am.
Wait a second. No. The Pfizer report, the problem was not that the Pfizer report wasn't true. The problem was the basis upon which the permission to do the surveillance that was submitted to the court was faulty.
I'm talking about the whole report. What
No.
was the name of that report where he peed in the bed where Obama slept or something like that was involved in it? He paid for some hookers to come pee in the bed or some kind of nonsense.
No, you're talking about
and they put
you're talking about the other report.
Yeah, that was out all over the news, being portrayed as being the truth.
No, it was not. It was not portrayed as being the truth.
Oh, don't even go there. That was bad. Anyway, what I saw today, being an independent voter, I saw a bunch of smiling people that were thoroughly enjoying that, and I'm sitting there looking at all the pens that they used to sign this, so they would have, souvenirs. And I'm thinking about the taxpayer having to pay for all those pens. They're signing the souvenirs. And I think it's just another big portrayal. Rudy, they have lost their minds. And that's all I've got to say on the issue. I'll let you take over from here.
They've lost their mind because they gave out pens? Jeez, oh, boy, okay.
Don't companies invest in pens as promotional items to, here, have my pen?
Trump gives out a pen almost every time he signs an executive order. He passes out pens. He passes out pens to the whole group. But anyway, that's just my friend John there he was showing his bias skirt for a moment there. So what can I tell you? I know you're going to find this kind of hard to believe, John, but honestly, I don't know that they really enjoyed doing that like you think. I think it is an extreme burden that they all had to put themselves out there to make that impeachment vote. And it's probably going to cost some of them, not many, but some of them are going to lose their seat behind that impeachment vote. Just like some people lost their seat behind the vote for the ACA. And yes, Chuck, how are you tonight?
Hey, we're doing fine, Rudy. I just wanted to pass on to your readers, your listeners, I'm sorry, if they wish to read this article about Abigail Disney in the New Yorker. It's the January 6, 2020 issue. It was an article originally written 12/30/2019 by Sheila Kolhatkar. And it's quite an interesting article, but we didn't go down into the part about the founder of the Patriotic Millionaires, Erica Payne. She's the one that recruits these people. And she also has another progressive political advocacy organization called the Agenda Project that she founded in 2019. And she describes it as aiming to dismantle the conservative premise and shove it into the dark recesses of the human psyche where it belongs. Now, this is farther on down in the article than what you read to the people, right?
So what do you think about that?
Well, I find the name offensive, patriotic millionaires. Does that mean those that are millionaires and not part of this progressives destroy Republicans thing? Are they less patriotic?
So do you think the objective of the patriotic millionaires is to destroy Republicans?
No, that's the part. That is the agenda organization she has. She is trying to get them to increase the taxes. Now, we kind of run into a biting the hand of the dog that, there's a dog biting the hand that feeds me. And so you've got millionaires who want and billionaires who want to pay more taxes. I don't know why they couldn't say, they have a place on there to say, I want to pay more. But why don't they put it there?
I just talked about
why don't they go to...
I just talked about that 2 seconds ago.
Right. Well, I'm also saying they can go to... Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Gates said that he's been asked that question, and you probably are about the 15th person, whenever I bring this topic up, that says the same thing. Just tell them to go pay more taxes. He said that's not a solution.
No, what I'm saying is on their tax form, now they have these accountants, probably a whole organization, a company. There is a place, I am sure. I know it's on the 1040 EZ and every one that I pay on. This is if you want to post more taxes, write down the amount. Well, Bill Gates is quite capable of signing that. The other thing, the one I'm talking about, the dog biting the hand, is if they go to these politicians and have them increase taxes, then how are they going to? Some of those that don't want to pay the extra tax, how are the politicians going to feel about? Hey, we raised taxes on you now. Hey, I need a couple million to put into my coffers for campaigning.
Well, we can fix that. Make all elections.
Sure.
Make all the elections publicly funded. Then we can eliminate the money and the lobbyists from getting into the pocket of the politicians. That's an easy fix. We can fix that. But what Bill Gates said, and I'm going to repeat what I just said a few minutes ago, Bill Gates said that the answer of me paying more taxes is not a solution, because the money that is needed to maintain the country, to provide the goods and services for the American people, can't be done by one individual alone paying additional funds. We have things that need to be dealt with in our country, and we're not dealing with them because it is more important. We have a love affair in this country with rich people and celebrities. We have a love affair. A rich person has more difficult time spending money than you and I ever could. Because when he walks into that upscale restaurant and they see that he is Will Smith, he ain't going to be able to spend a dime for his meal. Because that's just the way we are.
I'm not that way.
I'm just saying that as a general rule of thumb, Americans love rich people and they love celebrities. That's just reality.
Hey, I've met celebrities. I've talked with celebrities personally. I don't get excited about it.
Well, neither do I.
They get up out of bed, one foot on the floor. But what I'm saying is, why aren't we calling our representatives? Brian Mast, our 2 senators.
We should.
Scott, Mark. Yes. Everybody should be on the phone, say, raise the taxes. But then what do you do? What are they going to do? You're not going to get them to do much because then they're going to turn around and ask these same people to give them money for their coffers. So, it's kind of a
Well, I told you how we fixed that.
wash on it.
No, but I told you how we fixed that. We make publicly funded elections, and then we eliminate that. Trying to raise millions and millions of dollars to run for an office, which is just absolutely stupid in my opinion anyway. But you have to raise.
Well, that's the way the elections are now.
I know.
The guy with the biggest money gets elected. Well, is the two millionaires running there trying to destroy Biden? Are they going to get in on it? Are they going to win? I doubt it.
Well,
but they're going to blow a lot of their money campaigning when they could be contributing it to taxes. You know?
Well,
but you haven't answered my question.
What's that? What's your question?
Are people who are not in the patriotic millionaires, are they less patriotic than the patriotic millionaires?
No, and
You never said yes or no.
Well, I'm just saying. No, I'm saying no. But why do they call themselves the patriotic millionaires? Because conservatives.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you why. Conservatives typically associate the requests for additional taxes with left-wing progressive wackos that are trying to take your money. So by calling them the patriotic millionaires, it connotes that the people that are asking to pay more taxes are not trying to take your money because they got money of their own. That's why, if you read the article like I did, the members of the Patriotic Millionaires hate that title, and she has insisted that they keep the title.
And you know why? It says so right in the article. She wants it to use it as a form of embarrassment, to get other millionaires to feel embarrassed and then join her group. It says so right in the article.
Okay, is that bad?
Yeah, I think it's wrong. I think she's...
Why? Why is that wrong?
Why doesn't she just speak with them and get them to commit? I mean, she's got pressure here. She's got a lot of people on her website that are pretty high-powered people that got a lot of pull.
Well, okay. So let me respond to that. Why do conservatives call people socialists when they're not socialists? Because they have a desire to provide help to their fellow Americans. Is that fair? Is that fair to call people that want to get health care for people socialists and trying to take your money away? Is that fair?
No. Is it also fair to call Republicans neocons, conservative neocons? If you're a Republican, you're a neocon. It's all name calling.
No. Every Republican is not called a neocon.
But the word neocon is spread around pretty freely.
Yeah, but neocon refers to Republicans who are eager to pull the trigger of war. So that's the difference between...
No.
Well, that's what it means. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Why would they? All right, so that makes Trump a neocon.
I'm not... I don't know. I don't know that I would classify him as a neocon. I would actually classify him more as of an opportunist. He's more of an opportunist.
Opportunist? Okay, so then George W. was a neocon.
I'm going to say...
It would be true.
Wait, well, let me answer the question. I'm not going to say that George W. Bush was a neocon, but he was surrounded by neocons who pushed him in a direction that was not natural for him. I think left to his own devices, he may not have done some of the things that he did, but he had Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld pushing him every step of the way. And if you notice in the second term, him and Dick Cheney fell at odds because he had decided he no longer was going to follow that path. But anyway, I got another.
Well,
I got another call.
Okay, got it. All right.
All right, Chuck.
All right, thank you. Have
Okay.
a good night.
Okay, you too. And Sean, how are you?
Hi, Rudy. How you doing?
Okay.
First of all, I'm really enjoying your conversation there.
Okay.
You almost hit it on the nose with the basically campaign finance reform, but we can even make it more simple.
Okay.
The taxes, the reason the rich people don't pay as much taxes as us because they really do have accountants that know how to manipulate the system.
Yeah.
So let's go back to a flat tax, and that'll eliminate it from politics. If we go to a flat tax and there's no deductions, whatever, they know what the GDP is going to be next year, approximately, barring any, World Trade Center type events. They know what the GDP is. They know what the budget can be. They can determine what percentage every single American is going to pay. If you make $100, you pay $10 if the tax rate is 10%. No deductions. All right? So that would take that out of their hands and stop using it as a political tool instead of what it's supposed to be used for, which is to take care of things. The second thing we need is term limits. And you talked about lobbyists. Let a senator, whatever we determine, 2 sessions, 12 years, they get a severance pay, not a lifetime pay, a severance pay like you and me would get if we had a contract to work. Determine what that is. A year after 2 terms, 6 months after 1 term, and your health care stops at that point too, and they got to go out and get a real job like the rest of us. All right?
Okay.
And they're banned from being a lobbyist for 10 years after they serve office. Because a lot of these people that go serve 1 term and then they become lobbyists and make more money than you and I could ever dream of making.
I agree with you.
So we take that contact away from them. You don't have to ban them for life. We don't want to say you can never be, but for 10 years, let them lose their contacts. And if we do that and then start putting pressure on our representatives to spend our money, I always said I never minded paying my taxes. It's how they spend it that bothers me.
Okay.
I don't want to spend $500,000 on studying the sex life of the shrimp when people are starving in the streets and people don't have health care. I don't want to spend $400 million on airplanes that never took off from the ground in Afghanistan that we sold for scrap 10 years later for $35,000. I don't want to spend $3.1 billion on cell phones for people to get a job when there's people that don't have health care and there's people starving in the streets. Our politicians use our heartstrings and our idiocy to fund things because their second cousin on their mother's side runs some program, and believe me, all that money's coming back to them. It's all about the money. And if we don't stand up as an electorate and stop arguing with each other over the little BS, they're always going to have us fooled. And I'm talking about both sides.
Hey, Sean, you haven't said anything yet that I disagree with strongly. I may have some trepidations about term limits, but I'm not totally against that. And you said some things that, boy, you're tougher than I am. When Steve Forbes some years ago proposed the flat tax, I always thought that was a very interesting idea, and I think that could work, right? No question. A flat tax, no deductions, 5%, 10%, whatever it is, everybody pays the same thing no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's the beauty of that. Here's the beauty of it. Let's say, I haven't run the figures, but let's say that they know what the GDP is. We know what we have to fund next year. Healthcare, transportation, education, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So those numbers come up and they say, okay, this year we need 11% from every wage earner in America. No deductions. You want to have 18 kids? Find out a way to pay for them. All right? You want to build a house? I'm not giving you a tax break for building a house. All right? So that's for me. And this goes deeper because we should be paying for things like Crosstown Parkway.
Yeah.
We should pay for it locally because we're the ones that need it. They don't need it in Omaha, Nebraska. You know, why are they paying for Crosstown Parkway, which they paid a percentage of? But that goes deeper into it. But here's the thing. So if something happens that we have to fund that we didn't expect, all right, the next year, guess what? Our rate goes up 1% until that's paid back off. Not only that, you'd say that with the GDP and the tax base that we have, let's say it's 10%, all right? Add another 0.5% to pay the damn debt down after the interest on the debt is paid, all right? We're going to eventually start lowering that debt. Furthermore, I don't care if we don't spend all the money, which sounds impossible with politicians, no refunds. So we're going to eliminate the bureaucracy of the IRS. If I pay 10% of my wage, if I make $1,000 in a year, which I make more, of course, and I give them $100 of it, and they only spend 90 of my dollars, I don't want the $10 back. What I want them to do is lower the rate next year if possible, or pay the debt down farther. But see, that makes simple sense.
Does.
You know, it's like this border situation. Years ago, there's a bunch of guys sitting at a bar talking about it, building a wall and all this. And I said, we don't need to do that. All we need to do is build all of our federal prisons and our military bases on the southern border. And they all laughed, and then they looked at me and said, damn, that makes sense. Why are we building a wall? You know, build the federal prisons and the why do we have an Army base in Georgia? All right? In Columbus, Georgia, there's an Army base. Why? You know why? Because somebody's cousin owned that land.
I agree. I agree.
All right? And that's where term limits come in. Now, I was the same way because I was a huge Joe Lieberman fan. All right? And I thought, well, term limits would eliminate a really good man. However, there's other good people out there that would take his place, and they would be doing it for the right reasons. And the other gentleman brought up Brian Mast. I really loved Brian Mast when he first was out on the campaign trail. I saw him at it, and then after he got elected, I went to a benefit. I'm a musician, and I played it for free. And he spoke there, and I thought, this man turned into a politician faster than anybody I ever met.
Yep.
Seriously.
I know.
He did not have one answer for 20 questions that answered the question. And I thought, man, he's smooth. You know?
Yeah.
So term limits are meant to be there for a reason. And they should be. I mean, let's look at it. From a presidential standpoint, they're there for a reason. And why we don't have them, there are states that do it. You know?
One thing for sure, I may have some trepidations about term limits, but I certainly like your idea about limiting that lifetime income, because that's some big money that we got to pay out over a long period of time. Because what are they making, $175,000 a year or something like that? Yeah, that's a lot.
That
of money.
isn't even the tip of the iceberg. You're talking about. Well, the Speaker of the House makes a little extra money if you're head of
$229.
You have to keep us legal. I got to keep us legal. I have to say.
About the cost of health care.
Hold on a sec. He got to make an announcement because we're going over.
Yeah, we're going to go overtime on this show. We're going to keep it over.
All right.
So I have to say, this is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Legal ID. All right, back to the show.
Okay, Sean, you still good.
I'm going to tell you, you and I should go have lunch or something sometime, because we could sit down and iron out a lot of things together from different viewpoints. You know, I'm gonna end my call with one more comment. I have a friend of mine that an acquaintance, let's call him that I knew for 5 years, and we never talked politics.
Right.
And I mentioned something about health care, how we could afford it if we stopped wasting money. And he accused me of watching too much Fox News, and I said, I don't know what that has to do with what I said. I said, well, what you don't know is I haven't watched Fox News in over a year, and I haven't watched cable in a year. You know, I cut my cable off because I realized I was never home. And and I told him, I said, you know, as an electorate, as a group, we need to stop buying into what the media and the politicians tell us is important, realize what's important to both of us, and go out for one vote and make that the thing. If you do it, if you don't do it within 2 years, we're going to vote you out. If you don't do it within 6 years in the Senate, we are going to vote you out. And then hold up to it. Have a coalition of voters like they have coalitions of politicians that make decisions for us without our input.
Okay.
And seriously, that's why term limits would work.
Okay.
Because that would be forced upon them.
All right.
So,
but
anyway.
Hey, listen, you gave me something to think about. I listen. I have always said if somebody gives me something that I don't have a concrete answer for, I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to think about the term limit situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
I went back and forth on it the same way I did with the death penalty, and it's still in my mind. There's facts about the death penalty that it really doesn't deter things like that. And plus, I am anti-death penalty only because I don't want to see somebody. There's too many people let off as soon as DNA was testing was available. All the people that were in jail for the wrong crime.
Isn't that scary?
It's just amazing. You know,
Yeah, that's
plus
pretty
it costs.
scary.
It actually costs more to kill somebody than it does to keep them in jail for life.
Oh yeah.
Through all the appeal process for 20 years.
Yeah.
But the only exception I make is a person goes up, a Jeffrey Dahmer or somebody goes up and says, "Yeah, I did it." All right. They admit to it in court for all the country to see, and they say, and give them a choice. You want to spend the rest of your life in jail or you want to die? If they say, I want to die, go ahead and kill them. But that's my exception to the rule, you know. But I went back and forth on it because there's people that do deserve to die. They're never going to be rehabilitated, and they're just going to be a scourge of the earth, all right, for the good people that want to live right.
Well, Sean,
however, it makes me go back and forth because of all the things that weigh into it. And it's the same thing with term limits. I think of people that I've loved in office, and I thought, God, if we could just, get them to go one more term, maybe they could get that. And then I thought about it. No, it's not worth the whole. The whole would make these people start paying attention. The right people would run for office. We wouldn't have people that have not been in the workforce for 35 years telling us, oh, the American people, the middle class. They don't even know what it is. It's like when they talk about the poor. Oh, the poor.
Well, Sean, I'd like to thank you so much for calling. It's been an absolute pleasure. Don't be a stranger.
I won't.
Okay.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. All
right.
That was a good call. That was great. I enjoyed that immensely. Yeah. Folks, if you just tuning in, we're running a little OT. Greg is kind enough to give me till about 7:15. It's 7:05. We got about another 10 minutes. So if you heard any discussions that you want to participate in, please.
You got a few minutes. Yeah, you got a few minutes to call in.
Please feel free to call in. I'm always anxious to hear what you had to say. Sean had a lot of stuff to say. Some pretty good stuff, too.
Greg Wyatt standing by with IRSC basketball coming up in a few minutes right here. So your last chance to call in would be right now.
Yeah.
A little overtime on the, we're calling it an extra inning.
Yeah.
An extra inning here on the African-American scene with Rudy Howard, 340-1590.
Yes, 340-1590. Well, that was just that was just wonderful. We had good calls, and Chuck, my friend, I'm glad my friend Chuck called, but he's always looking for a conspiracy under every rock. So, and I'm glad he went out and he read that article from New Yorker, which I covered last week, and somehow he feels that there's some conspiracy to that and is uncomfortable with the name patriotic millionaires, as though the innuendo in his mind is that anybody that's not a millionaire is not patriotic, and I don't get that out
Is
of
he
it.
a millionaire that's offended by it for some reason,
No,
perhaps?
No, it's not. Well, I shouldn't
Millionaires
say that, not that I know
don't usually get offended by much. I mean,
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, but yeah, so, but I'm glad he went out and he read the article. He heard me talk about it. He went out there and found it, and he read it, and that's good.
all right.
Is Greg there?
I think Greg is nearby. Maybe we can check in on him. Greg, are you within an earshot of us over here in the studio?
You bet. Yeah.
Hey.
I got you. The ladies doing great tonight over Broward.
Yeah.
And 78 to 47. And the ladies are on their way to victory number 12 on the year. Keep in mind, the same club last year only had 2 wins. So a great season so far for Coach Robinson and the Lady Pioneers. We've got about a minute 44 to go in this game. The guys will be coming up around 7:30.
Okay. We'll have our pregame show at about 7:15. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Wow.
So, I think we had some dialogue here that should make you think. Gave you some things to think about. I've read a great article from Bill Gates about him stating the need for additional taxes, which is something that just makes, if you're on a conservative tip, that makes you just really uncomfortable. And I'm not sure why. If they're, listen, we need health care for American citizens. Simple. Canada does it. England does it. Lots of countries do it. They provide health care for their people. Why can't we do it? We're the richest country in the world. We can't provide health care? And somehow, if we provide health care for people, we're taking away from the American entrepreneurial spirit? I think not. I think we're way past that. I mean, if our American citizens need health care, I can't understand why we wouldn't want to do it. That is one area, and I know some of you who've listened to me a long time are tired of me whining about it, and I will say it almost does end up being a whine. I am just whining. I do not understand why you would be opposed to your fellow American citizens having health insurance. Just don't understand that. Can't understand that at all. I would gladly pay a little extra in taxes to provide a little health insurance for everybody. And listen, one of the things that Chuck said earlier, I mean, we have to keep in mind, under Reagan taxed my Social Security so he could give benefits to rich people. So for most people, and Chuck didn't know that when I said that about a month or so ago, he didn't realize that he had to pay taxes on his Social Security. You have had to pay taxes on your Social Security, I think, since, I want to say it was 1980 something or other. He put the tax on Social Security, and it was strictly because there was a tax break given to the rich people. To me, that's just ridiculous. Why are you taxing people's Social Security, and the Social Security came from a tax that they had to pay while they're working? Somehow, that just don't seem fair. That just don't seem fair to me. Now, and I'm all for trying to do some additional things, but somehow that one there just doesn't seem to be right to me. But anyway, I hope that we've had a couple of weeks here where Christmas and New Year's on a Wednesday, kind of odd times for holidays to be falling in, and so there's been plenty of time off, and then we got Martin Luther King Day coming up on Monday, which is another holiday, and then we go for a long stretch where there's no holidays, and we just have to hit it. I'll tell you, and it's my pleasure to every week sit here and talk to you guys and field your questions and field your concerns. It's a very good thing, and it's truly my pleasure. But I will tell you, as we talk through some of these things, I want you to give this some thought. You know, just like this conversation I shared with you that we had in the sauna, that conversation just touched me. And I've been carrying that with me ever since. That man talking about when he was in jail, he had 3 square meals, roof over his head, health care, didn't have to worry about it, cable TV in there, although he couldn't always see what he wanted to see. And then the point was brought up, they also have educational opportunity. And we're paying for that. But you don't want to pay for your fellow Americans to have health insurance. I want you to, when you turn this radio off, I want you to go somewhere and sit in a corner and go, does that really make sense? Why would I be opposed to that? What's the basis for me not wanting to do that? Why do I want to give college education opportunities to prisoners, but I don't want to provide college education opportunities for working citizens' children? I don't know. Something doesn't seem quite right about that. You need to think about that. Reorder your priorities, because a budget is nothing but priorities. So, and your societal concerns should be part of the budgetary process. So as you're thinking about what's important to you and what should be important to our government, think about those things that might be important to you. And I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.